Okay. Let's go. This is off of the. I haven't done one in a minute now. Here, I see. This is off of the Age of Sail article. Clipper, I believe, is the type of ship. Yeah. And yeah, I was really disappointed with the Age of Sail episode, which surprisingly I had a lot of views on. I really don't know why. Most of the time, I just complained about the section about the decline of the Age of Sail because it was like basically only about the Age of Steam, but still some interesting stuff coming off of the Age of Sail. We got here Clipper type of boat. Let's get into it. I apologize if that was really loud. I don't know why I'm hyped up a little bit. So Clipper. A clipper was a type of mid 19th century merchant sailing vessel designed for speed. Clippers were generally narrow for their length, small by later 19th century standards, could carry limited bulk freight, and had a large total sail area. Clipper does not refer to a specific sail plan. Clippers may be schooners, brigs, brigantines, I don't know, etc., full rigged ships. Let's just take a quick little look. Merchant sailing vessel, I'm sure we can assume. Um, Sail plan is a drawing of a sailing craft viewed from the side, depicting its sails, the spars that carry them, and some of the rigging that supports the rig. Schooners is a schooner is a type of sailing vessel defined by its rig, fore and aft rigged on all of two or more masts, and in the case of a two-masted schooner, the foremast generally being shorter than the mainmast. Okay. Brigs. Come on. No, little quick description. There it is. Didn't really want to show up at first. A brig is a type of sailing vessel defined by its rig. Two masts, which are both square rigged. Brigs originated in the second half of the 18th century and were a common type of smaller merchant vessel or warship from then until the the latter part of the 19th century. So, come on, hyperlink. Why are you not coming up? So yeah, square mast. I'm guessing, or square rigging is when I'm assuming is when we have this kind of cross beam here, and the sails are actually more or less square-like, versus in the schooner we have these bigger, I don't know, like spinnaker type. I don't know my sail stuff. Although this looks like it has some squares. Although this back mast is going, or the mast is the center pole. This back rigging kind of goes up diagonally. I suppose I really don't know. Brigantine, I don't know, is a two-masted sailing vessel with a fully square-rigged foremast and at least two sails on the mainmast, a square topsail and a gaff sail mainsail. The main mast is the second and taller of the two masts. Okay, there's a lot of info there. A lot of stuff to learn about boats, which I'm ashamed to say that I live in a very, very boaty place, and I know very little. Somehow, that part of my youth just slipped out of my hands like the jib rope or whatever they're called when a heavy wind sweeps on by. Anyway, great. So, full rigged ship or a fully rigged ship is a sailing vessel with a sail plan of three or more masts. Okay. So, yeah, clipper does not refer to a specific sail plan. Clippers may be schooners, brigs, brigantines, as well as full rigged ships. Cool. And it's again, clipper is designed for speed, generally narrow for their length, small by 19th century standards. Clippers were mostly constructed in British and American shipyards, although France, Brazil, and the Netherlands and other nations also produced some. Clippers sailed all over the world, primarily on the trade routes between the UK and China in transatlantic trade, and on the New York to San Francisco route around Cape Horn during the California Gold Rush. Dutch clippers were built beginning in the 1850s for the tea trade and passenger service to Java. The boom years of the Clipper era began in 1843 in response to a growing demand for faster delivery of tea from China and continued with the demand for swift passage to gold fields in California and Australia beginning in 1848 and 1851, respectively. The era ended with the opening of the Suez Canal in 1869. So yeah, they were mainly designed, it seems, for getting stuff places quickly, but um, not large bulk of freight or whatever. Oh yeah, it does say bulk freight. Could carry limited bulk freight. Had a large total sail area. So I guess sail area is um, somewhat related to um, top speed or something. I think, yeah, narrowness also does make a difference. I guess both of those together. I wonder what the actual math of it all is. Like, where you end up, what your curve looks like of I don't know, sail area versus top speed at, like, I don't know, wind flow and all different stuff. I'm sure there's a lot to consider there, and I'm sure someone's done it. So, origin and usage of clipper, the term. The term clipper most likely derives from the verb clip, which in former times meant, among other things, to run or fly swiftly. Like, yeah, we're clipping along here. I've said that before. Dryden, the English poet, used the word clip to describe the swift flight of a falcon in the 17th century when he said, "And with her eagerness the quarry missed, straight flies at check and clips it down the wind." The ships appeared to clip along the ocean water. The term clip became synonymous with speed and was also applied to fast horses and sailing ships. To clip it and going at a good clip are remaining expressions. The first application of the term clipper in a nautical sense is uncertain. At first, fast-sailing vessels were referred to as a Virginia-built or pilot boat model, with the name Baltimore-built A appearing during the War of 1812. I say A because I am more or less a Baltimore. I'm from the Baltimore area, the greater Baltimore area. Yeah. Name Baltimore built appearing during the War of 1812 for fast boat. Pilot boat model, Virginia built, Baltimore built. In the final days of the slave trade around 1835 to 1850, just as the type was dying out, the term Baltimore Clipper became common and remained current in the last quarter of the 18th century through to the first half of the 1800s, 19th century. The retrospective application of the word clipper to these vessels has caused confusion. And they have a whole another article just on that. I wonder if it's a long one. No, it isn't. I think I've seen this replica or some replica of a clipper. Because there are some old boats that park in the Baltimore harbor for a fun time, like little display, whatever. The Oxford English Dictionary's earliest quote referring to the Baltimore Clipper is from 1824. The dictionary cites Royal Navy officer and novelist Frederick Marryat as using the term in 1830. British newspaper usage of the term can be found as early as 1832 and in shipping advertisements from 1835. A U.S. court case of 1834 has evidence that discusses a clipper being faster than a brig. Okay, okay. How long is this? Because I really want to read that Baltimore thing. Okay, it's kind of long, kind of long. Definitions. A clipper is a sailing vessel designed for speed, a priority that takes precedence over cargo carrying capacity or building or operating costs. It is not so yeah, speed is most important. It is not restricted to any one rig, not restricted to any one rig, while many were fully rigged ships, others were barks, brigs, or schooners. And remember, fully rigged was saying um, three or more masts, pardon me, lisp. All of them square rigged. Okay. Cool, 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 cool. Nor was the term, yeah, so it is not restricted to any one rig. While many were fully rigged, others were barks, brigs, and schooners. Nor was the term restricted to any one hull type. So it sounds like it's kind of just saying, yeah, fast boat. Howard Chappell lists three basic hull types for clippers. The first was characterized by the sharp dead rise and ends found in the Baltimore clipper. Dead rise. The glossary of nautical terms is an alphabetical listing. Dead rise. Dead rise. Dead rise. Dead rise. Dead rise. Tell me what to do. Dead rise. The angle of the hull surface relative to horizontal, as measured on either side of the keel on a line drawn towards the turn of the bilge. Pardon me. Without any other qualifier, it is taken at the midships cross section of the hull. This can be expressed in degrees or sometimes as a vertical linear measure, such as inches, at a standard distance from the keel, which the keel is the pointy part on the bottom of the ship. Um, I'm pretty sure, at least. A hull with a lot of dead rise has an obvious V shape to the bottom of the hull, whereas no dead rise denotes sheer sides and a flat-bottomed hull. It is usually taken to be one of several measurements of sharpness of the hull. Wait, is this like looking straight at the ship or the side? Measured on either side of the keel as a line drawn towards the turn of the bilge. Part of the hull the ship rests on as takes the ground, the outer end of the floor. The turn of the bilge is a part of the hull that changes from the approximately vertical sides of the hull to the more. Okay, I think I might get that. Okay, I think it basically just says how. I think it. Yeah, if I'm getting that right, a sharp dead rise means that if you're looking like head on or from the back onto the ship, the hull is kind of pointy. If it has a sharp dead rise, it's more V-shaped as opposed to U-shaped. I think, and I guess that would make it cut through the water a little better. More. I actually don't know. I don't know fluid dynamics, so I will not comment on that. Okay. So characterized by the sharp dead rise, that V shape, and ends found in the Baltimore Clipper. The second, and this is Howard Chappell's list of 3 basic hull types. The second was a hull with a full midsection and a modest dead rise, but sharp ends. This was a development of the hull form of transatlantic packets. The third was more experimental, with dead rise and sharpness being balanced against the need to carry a profitable quantity of cargo. A clipper carried a large sail area and a fast hull. By the standards of any other type of sailing ship, a clipper was greatly over-canvassed, which is referring to the sail, I assume. The last defining feature of a clipper, in the view of maritime historian David MacGregor, was a captain who had the courage, skill, and determination to get the fastest speed possible out of her. So yeah, if you have a clipper, you got to have a captain that's like, whoa! Yeah. In assessing the hull of a clipper, different maritime historians use different criteria to measure sharpness, fine lines, or finesse, or fineness, I don't know. A concept which is explained by comparing a rectangular cuboid with the underwater shape of a vessel's hull. Which a cuboid is a hexahedron 6-faced solid. Okay, it's like a cube. Um, the more material one has to carve off the cuboid to achieve the hull shape, the sharper the hull. Ideally, a maritime historian would be able to look at either the block coefficient or fineness the block coefficient of fineness or the prismatic coefficient of various clippers, but measured drawings or accurate half models may not exist to calculate either of these figures. That doesn't make too much sense to me. An alternative measure of sharpness for hulls of a broadly similar shape is the coefficient of underdeck tonnage, as used by David MacGregor in comparing T-clippers. This could be calculated from the measurements taken to determine the registered tonnage. Sorry, this is tonnage, isn't it? Tonnage. To say the amount of weight it can carry? Broadly similar shape is the coefficient of underdeck tonnage, gosh darn, as used by David MacGregor in comparing T-clippers. This could be calculated from the measurements taken to determine the registered tonnage, so can be applied to more vessels. An extreme clipper has a hull of great fineness, as judged either by the prismatic coefficient. Okay, I'm going to skip over some of this. This term has been misapplied in the past without reference to hull shape. As commercial vessels, these are totally reliant on speed to generate a profit for their owners, as their sharpness limits their cargo carrying capacity. That's an extreme clipper. Designed to sacrifice cargo capacity for speed, they had a bow lengthened above the water, a drawing out and sharpening of the forward body. So they were pointy, pointy boats. That's an extreme clipper. A medium clipper has a cargo carrying hull that has some sharpness. In the right conditions and with a capable captain, some of these achieved notable quick passages. They were also able to pay their way when the high freight rates often paid to a fast sailing ship were not available in a fluctuating market. Okay, so they were kind of a happy medium because they're a medium clipper. The term clipper applied to vessels between these two categories. They often made passages as fast as extreme clippers. Okay, so like a normal clipper as opposed to a medium or an extreme clipper. Clipper is just in between medium and extreme. Often made passages as fast as extreme clippers, but had less difficulty in making a living when freight rates were lower. So they were ambidextrous, if you will. Okay, I'm probably going to skip around the history section here, unless it ends up being quite interesting. Or actually, here, let me take a quick break for some pictures. Here's the taping, a Klee clip, taping, a T clipper built in 1863. We can see it is fully rigged, I believe, because those are 3 masts and some jibs, if I get my boat terminology right. And yeah, you can see that it sits low in the water. Like, I guess it has a sharp hull that just makes it like, I don't know, dip low as opposed to like, a modern barge is a wide bellied thing. They don't go very fast. It's wide bellied, so it has more surface area. I guess maybe what determines the keel or the draft is generally the surface area. I don't know, like the amount of hull touching the water. Because on the Clippers, it seems like it seems like a bit of hull touches the water, but it like goes deep into the water because it's so sharp. Versus like a barge, it's just kind of flat. It's like an aluminum foil boat you might build in elementary school. So yeah, he's long, he's pointy, Clipper, a lot of sail. There is Clipper Bark Spirit of the Age, 1854. Cool. The painting. And taping has its own article. Maybe we'll read that later. Yeah, that's Clipper Bark, Spirit of the Age. Okay, yeah, history part here. The first ships to which the term clipper seemed to have been applied were the Baltimore clippers, developed in the Chesapeake Bay, holla, before the American Revolution, and reached their zenith between 1795 and 1815. They were small, rarely exceeding 200 tons OM. I don't know OM. Builder's old measurement is the method used in England from approximately 1650 to 1849 for calculating the cargo. Sorry, my lights just flickered. For calculating the cargo capacity of a ship. Old measurement is OM, 200 tons OM. So they rarely exceeded that. Their hulls were sharp-ended and displayed much dead rise, which was that V shape. They were rigged as schooners, brigs, or brigantines. In the War of 1812, some were lightly armed, sailing under letters of marque and reprisal, when the type, exemplified by Chasseur, launched at Fells Point, Baltimore, in 1814. Became known, exemplified by Chasseur, who became known for her incredible speed. The deep draft. Okay, there we go. They do have a deep draft, which, if you don't know, that is, here it says in good terms, the vertical distance between the waterline and the bottom of the hull, keel. So yeah, bottom of the hull is the keel, which that basically just means like if you look at a boat on the water, how much further does the lowest part of the boat go in the water? So like a lot of like normal sailing yachts, like a 28 some foot yacht, is between like 4 and 6 feet, which means like if you're in water that's shallower than that, you're going to run aground. So it sounds like these clippers did indeed have a deep draft. So they had a lot of their boat underneath the water, which I was just reasoning earlier. Became known for incredible speed. This is Chasseur. The deep draft enabled the Baltimore Clipper to sail close to the wind, they say, which I believe is like at the speed of the wind. Is a sailing direction under. Okay, yeah, no, that it might actually mean with the wind like right behind it. I don't know. I don't know my sailing terminology. I keep telling myself that I need to like actually take sailing lessons to relive my youth. I had brief sailing lessons with my grandfather a couple years back, but those ended in a they were interesting. I mean, like I feel like if if someone put a gun to me and said sell this boat, and it was a simple enough boat like a Flying Scot or really like any I don't know sub 20-foot thing that yeah you can crew it with one person, I think I'd be able to do it. I wouldn't be great by any means, but like if it's just got a main and a jib or a spinnaker or something, I'm pretty sure I could do it. Wouldn't be great, but I yeah. Well, okay, I could deal with it on the open water. I think if it's not like crazy rough. If it when it came down to like bringing it in to shore, I don't know. It's like flying a plane. It's really easy to fly a plane when it's in the air, but taking off and landing is that's everything. Like all you have to do when it's in the air is nothing. So same with a sailboat. Although you do have to be a little more attentive on a sailboat when you're just sailing. But what do? You let slack in the jib so that it just drops. You can bring down the main so you have no wind in that, or let slack and then I guess in a small boat. No, what can you do? You can pull down the main and just just use the jib to bring yourself in somewhere. I forget. I need to take sailing classes, lessons, whatever. But it's kind of cold out right now. But there were a lot of pretty boats out yesterday, and I think I have a friend that was out on one on a sailboat. It's got like a I don't know, like a 24-foot something. Oh well. Anyway, I'm reading Wikipedia articles. Yeah. Okay. Clippers running the British blockade of Baltimore came to be recognized for speed rather than cargo space. The type existed as early as 1780. Um, Skipping around here, vessels of the Baltimore Clipper type continued to be built for the slave trade, being useful for escaping enforcement of the British and American legislation prohibiting the transatlantic slave trade. Some of the Baltimore Clippers were captured when working as slavers, condemned by the appropriate court, and sold to owners who then used them as opium clippers, moving from one illegal international trade to another. There's my Baltimore pride. Yeah, if we're not moving slaves, we're moving opioids. Great. Ann McKim, built in Baltimore in 1833 by the Kennard and Williamson shipyard, is considered by some to be the original clipper ship. Um, while other historians are saying that there's no first clipper, there is more a evolutionary step, eventually leading to the clipper as we know it. But this one, the Ann McKim, was 494 tons OM, and was built on the enlarged lines of a Baltimore clipper with a sharply raked stem, counterstern, and square rig. Although Ann McKim was the first large clipper ship ever constructed, she cannot be said to have founded the clipper ship era, or even that she directly influenced shipbuilders, since no other ship was built like her, but she may have suggested the clipper design in vessels of ship rig. She did, however, influence the building of Rainbow in 1845, the first extreme clipper ship. So, Ann McKim, do we get a picture? Yeah. Um, Looks low. Well, this is a painting. Looks low and long with wide sails. Wide sails. Versus a Rainbow. That looks shorter. That looks much shorter. But what do I know? It's also another painting. I think I just clicked that article. Yeah, I did. Okay, so that was Ann McKim was 1833, the arguably first clipper, if there wasn't a gradual step towards him, built in 1833. While this first extreme clipper ship, which I guess is not argued, was 1845. So that is only a 12-year difference there. Rainbow is the first extreme clipper. In Aberdeen, Scotland, shipbuilders Alexander Hall and Sons developed the Aberdeen Clipper bow in the late 1830s. The first was Scottish made, launched in 1839. Do we get a picture? That thing looks all sail. It just looks like it is all sail. Two-masted schooner. Yeah. Described as the first clipper built in Britain. It was only 150 tons OM, so that is significantly smaller than Ann McKim at 494. And what is the earlier designation, like 200 some tons OM? I don't know. I don't feel like finding that. Okay, let's pick it up here a little bit. Okay. The Scottish Maid was intended for Aberdeen-London trade, where speed was crucial to compete with steamships. These fellows, the Hall brothers, tested various hulls in a water tank and found the Clipper design most effective. And the design was influenced by tonnage regulations. Tonnage measured a ship's cargo capacity and was used to calculate tax and harbor dues. Okay, that's interesting. I'll say that again. Tonnage measured a ship's cargo capacity and was used to calculate tax and harbor dues, which is why why that influenced the design here. The new 1836 regulations measured depth and breadth, with length measured at half midship depth. Extra length above this level was tax-free and became a feature of clippers. Scottish made proved swift and reliable, and the design was widely copied. Okay, then followed the vast clipper trade of tea, opium, spices, and other goods far east to Europe. And the ships became known as tea clippers. From 1839, large American clipper ships started to be built beginning with Akbar, 650 tons OM. That's big. In 1839, and including the 1844 built Hokwa, 581 tons OM. These larger vessels were built predominantly for use in China tea trade, known as tea clippers again. Rainbow, that extreme clipper, was 757 tons OM. Maybe I just have a really bad grasp for how big tons OM is, because it felt like we started a lot slower and we're getting bigger and bigger. But Rainbow, the first extreme clipper, 757 tons OM, 1845, launched in New York. The American clippers were larger vessels designed to sacrifice cargo capacity for speed. They had a bow lengthened above the water, a drawing out and sharpening of the forward body, and the greatest breadth further aft. Extreme clippers were built in the period 1845 to 1855. So it sounds like they were kind of just built like an arrow, an arrow with sails. 1851 saw what some call the first medium clippers in Medford, Massachusetts. The Antelope, often called the Antelope of Boston, to distinguish from other ships of the same name, was one of these first medium clippers. A contemporary ship design journalist noted that the design of her model was to combine large stowage capacity with good sailing qualities. It was relatively flat forward and had only an 8-inch dead rise at half floor. The medium clipper, though still very fast, could carry more cargo. After 1854, extreme clippers were replaced in American shipbuilding yards by medium clippers. The Flying Cloud was a clipper ship built in 1851. Ooh, pretty. That's a very pretty painting. I'd get that to hang on a wall. It is a lot of pretty ocean blues, sky blues. The clouds touch the sails. Yeah, that's just pretty. Okay, Flying Cloud was 1851 and established the fastest passage between New York and San Francisco within weeks of her launching, then broke her own records 3 years later, which stood at 89 days and 8 hours. until 1989. Let's see. A lot of different records. Clipper ships largely ceased being built in American shipyards in 1859, when, unlike the earlier boom years, only 4 Clipper ships were built. That's not many. A few were built in the 1860s. The last American Clipper ship built was the Pilgrim in 1873 from shipyards of Medford, Massachusetts. Um, Among ship owners of the day, Medford built came to mean the best. Kind of like something that's built Honda tough. You know what I'm saying? British Clippers continued to be built after 1859. Um, so after 1859, the Brits were still doing it. New design was developed for the British Clipper ships that was nothing like the American Clippers. They were still called Extreme Clippers. The new design had a sleek, graceful appearance, less sheer, less freeboard, lower bulwarks, and smaller breadth. They were built for the China tea trade, starting with the Falcon in 1859, continuing until 1870. Early on, they were made from wood, though some were iron. Um, let's see, 1863, first tea clippers of composite construction. Best of both worlds. What's that composite? Composite clippers had the strength of an iron hull framework, but with wooden planking that, when properly insulated fastenings, could use. With properly insulated fastenings, could use copper sheathing without the problem of galvanic corrosion. Okay, good, good, good. Okay, on the actual hull. Fascinating. Copper sheathing prevented fouling and teredo worm. Teredo? Commonly called the naval shipworm. Species of saltwater clam. It looks like a gooey duck. A marine bivalve mollusk in the family Pteridinidae. Species is the type species of the genus Pterido. Okay, so I guess it caused a bit of trouble. But copper sheathing could not be used on iron hulls, so only on wood hulls, I suppose. And here's bifouling. The accumulation of microorganisms, plants, algae, and other small animals where it is not wanted on surfaces of a ship. I have seen that myself, and it is really annoying. But they just build up. You leave something in water, like the critters just build all over it. It is so annoying. But of course, we are in their area, so I guess I'll allow it. Iron framework of composite clippers was less bulky and lighter. Really lighter. Okay. I guess you can use less material and have it be stiffer, where you need like heavy hardwoods. I don't know how shipbuilding works. So more cargo in the hull of the same external shape. After 1869, with the opening of the Suez Canal, the greatly advantaged steam vessels, we led to the decline there of the age of sail. The tea trade collapsed for clippers due to this Suez Canal that steam vessels loved. Um, I guess it was not easy for a sail ship to go through the Suez Canal. I don't know. From the late 1860s until, until the early 1870s, clipper trade increasingly focused on Britain to Australia and New Zealand, carrying goods and immigrant services that had begun earlier with the Australian gold rush of the 1850s, which I did not know existed, to be entirely honest. They only ever teach us about the American one in California. Um, that is here in my county's public school system. Let's see, even in the 1880s, sailing ships were the main carriers of cargo. Okay, so yeah, this trade eventually became unprofitable, and the Asian clipper fleet became unseaworthy. So yeah, it seems like for a while, up until the later part of the 1800s, for long distance stuff, primarily Britain to Australia and New Zealand, clippers were still used, or just sailing ships in general were still used. But once they started to fall apart, they just weren't repaired, And yeah, they moved on to the taking over steamships, I'm guessing. Opium clippers. Before the early 18th century, the East Indian Company paid for its tea mainly in silver. When the Chinese emperor chose to embargo European manufactured commodities, demand payment for all Chinese goods in silver, the price rose, restricting trade. The East India Company, which you hear about in Pirates of the Caribbean, they began to produce opium in India, something desired by the Chinese as much as tea was by the British. This had to be smuggled into China on smaller, fast-sailing ships called opium clippers. Some of these were built specifically for the purpose, mostly in India and Britain, such as the 1842 built Ariel, 100 tons OM. So that is a small little ship. Some fruit schooners were bought for this trade, as were some Baltimore clippers. I guess, yeah, some fruit boats would need to be a little fast because fruit can rot quite well. Okay, are we? Yeah, we're coming near the end here. China clippers and the apogee of sail. Among the most notable clippers were the China clippers, also called tea clippers, designed to ply the trade routes between Europe and the East Indies. Last example of these, still in reasonable condition, is Cutty Sark, preserved in dry dock at Greenwich, UK. Cutty Sark. Well, let's look at that picture real quick now. Load. Yep, that's preserved, all right. Doesn't look as magnificent when it's just a dry dock with no sails up. But yeah, yo, you look at that hull. Like if you can't see this picture, this hull is like narrow. It does just look like it cuts through the water. Like that thing, that is a tall hull. It just shoots on through. I'm guessing. Yeah, look at that thing. That is a narrow, deep, tall boat. Oh, and here's it next to a next to a much larger boat. Quite a majestic looking boat, though. Let me see if I can pull that up. Darn, look at how distracted I'm getting. The HMS Worcester. Worcester? Sorry. 86 guns, crew propelled. I don't know what screw propelled means. First rate ship of the line of the Royal Navy. Well, well, well. Okay, let's get back to this. So yeah, China clippers, tea clippers, um, went between Europe and the East Indies. We got the Cutty Sark at Greenwich, UK. Damaged by fire in 2007 while undergoing conservation, the ship was permanently elevated 3 meters above the dry dock floor in 2010 as part of a plan for long-term preservation. Clippers were built for seasonal trade such as tea, where an early cargo was more valuable. Okay, that's fair. Or for passenger routes. One passenger ship survives, the City of Adelaide, designed by William Pyle of Sunderland. Where is Sunderland again? Yeah, who cares? Wait, Tyne and Ware. I said, where is it? It's not Tyne and Ware. City of Adelaide is this pretty little boat. Okay, not bad, not bad. 1864 is when it was built. That's a passenger ship, a passenger clipper. Fast ships were ideally suited to low volume, high profit goods like tea, opium, spices, people, and mail. We've already heard all that. Return could be spectacular. The Challenger returned from Shanghai with the most valuable cargo of tea and silk ever to be laden in one bottom. Competition among the clippers was public and fierce, with their times recorded in the newspapers. Oh, that's kind of fun. People are all like, ooh, I wonder who's the fastest clipper. The last China clippers had peak speeds of over 30 kilometers an hour, or if you like sailing, 16 knots, but their average speeds over a whole voyage were substantially less. The joint winner of the Great Tea Race of 1866. Great Tea Race of 1866 in the middle of the 1800s. Clippers which carried cargoes of tea from China to Britain would compete in informal races to be the first ship to dock in London with the new crop of the season. That's fun. So the joint winner of the Great Tea Race of 1866 logged about 15,800 nautical miles on a 99-day trip. This gives an average speed slightly over 6.6 knots or 12.2 kilometers an hour. That's not bad for a ship. Ships are slow, unless you're those stupid American Cup boats that are out right now. Those things are so dumb. The modern ones, like from what I understand, they just break like no one's business. Like, give me back to days of Stars and Stripes. What was that? 80s. Like those were some yachts. These things nowadays, it's just like you only have the foil in the water, the rest of the ship's out, and they're just always they're so weird. They're so weird. Anyway, moving on. The key to a fast passage for a tea clipper was getting across the China Sea against the monsoon winds. These difficult sailing conditions dictated the design of tea clippers. U.S. clippers were designed for strong winds. Okay. Donald Mackay's Sovereign of the Seas reported the highest speed ever achieved by a sailing ship, 22 knots or 41 kilometers an hour, made while running her easting down to Australia in 1854. Man, that is hauling ass. 41 kilometers an hour on a sailing ship. That is let me do my conversion. Um, that is like what, 6.2, 24. That's like 25 miles an hour. Kilometers an hour to miles per hour. 41. Okay, it's 25.5 miles per hour, which on a boat, on a sailing ship, that's moving. 11 other instances are reported of a ship logging 18 knots or over, which is 33 kilometers an hour or over. 10 of these were recorded by American clippers. Besides the breathtaking 465 nautical mile days run of the Champion of the Seas, 13 other cases are known of ships sailing over 400 nautical miles in 24 hours. With few exceptions, though, all the port-to-port sailing records are held by American clippers. And the record set by Champion of the Seas in 1854 was not broken until 1984, so just under 100 years later, by a multi-hull, or 2001 by another monohull. Okay, we are almost through. Decline. American clippers sailing from the East Coast to the California gold fields were working in a booming market. Freight rates were high everywhere in the first years of the 1850s. This started to fade in late 53. Ports of Cali in Australia reported that they were overstocked with goods that had been shipped earlier in the year. This gave an accelerating fall in freight rates that was halted, however, by the start of the Crimean War in March of 1854, as many ships were now being chartered by the French and British governments. End of the Crimean War in April 56 released all this capacity back on the world shipping markets, the result being a severe slump. Next year had the Panic of 1857, which was a financial crisis in the U.S. caused by the declining international economy and overexpansion of the domestic economy. Okay. Oh, and because of Mr. Morse inventing the telegraph, the Panic of 1857 was the first financial crisis to spread rapidly. The next year had this panic with effects on both sides of the Atlantic. The U.S. was just starting to recover from this in 1961 when the Civil War started, causing significant disruption to trade in both Union and Confederate states. As the economic situation deteriorated in 1953, American ship owners either did not order new vessels or specified an ordinary clipper or medium clipper instead of an extreme. No extreme was launched in American shipyard after the end of 1954, and only a few medium clippers after 1860. So yeah, they were big at the beginning. Actually, here's a chart. Great. Oh, that didn't open the way I wanted it to. A graph of the number of clippers built in the USA each year in the 1850s. This closely follows the economic situation. So you see, they first came out in the 1850 more or less. Really big in 53. Holy cow, 120 of them. Panic of 57. Well, they started to fall in popularity, and then because that was what the Crimean War was 54. Yeah, man. So 54, Crimean War happened, and we almost halved. Well, shoot, 52, we almost doubled. And then a year later, Crimean War, we almost halved. And then steady decline, 55 to 56, not much change. But then 57, the economic collapse, the panic of 1857 just dwindled. Makes you wonder if the war never happened. Oh, and then of course the Civil War started, and no one's buying ships for a land war. Yeah, but it makes you wonder though, if the Crimean War hadn't happened, I wonder how long that would have been, or how long the Clipper era would have lasted there. Huh? It's fascinating. Okay, okay. Cool, cool, cool. By contrast, British trade recovered well at the end of the 1850s. Tea clippers had continued to be launched. And that is just the USA, by the way, the chart. But from the understanding there, in Britain, they lasted a little longer until the 70s. So maybe that's about how long it would have lasted here. Tea clippers had continued to be launched during the depressed years, apparently little affected by the economic downturn. Long-distance route to China was not realistically challenged by steamships in the early part of the 1860s. No true steamer had the fuel efficiency to carry sufficient cargo to make a profitable voyage. Okay. My computer is now low on charge. Where's my charger at? Oh, it's just around the bend. It'd be a shame if it shut down on me while I was doing this. Because I don't know if it would autosave a video. Okay, situation changed, I guess, in Britain in 1866 when the Alfred Holt designed and owned SS Agamemnon. Agamemnon? I don't know how this is pronounced. Um, Sorry, that boat, SS Agamemnon, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that's pronounced. It made its first voyage to China. Holt, the designer, had persuaded the Board of Trade to allow higher steam pressures in British merchant vessels, running at 60. Wait, this is a steamship. Oh, SS probably means steamship. I've never made that connection. What does SS mean on a ship? Probably steamship. Steamship, yep. Acronym for steamship. I never knew that. You always hear people yelling, all aboard the SS, whatever. Never knew that meant steamship. Okay. Made her first voyage. Hull had persuaded the Board of Trade to allow higher pressure, so running at 60 psi instead of the previous 25 psi over 2 times, and using an efficient compound engine. Agamemnon or whatever had the fuel efficiency to steam at 10 knots to China and back, with coaling stops at Meridius on the outward and return legs. Okay, and that allowed them to make a profit. After the Suez Canal opened in '69, steamships could take a much shorter route than sailing ships, going through the canal as opposed to around the Cape of Good Hope. By 1871, tea clippers found strong competition with steamers in the tea ports of China. So 1871, things really went down for clippers. Typical passage time back to London for a steamer was 58 days, while the fastest clippers could occasionally make the trip in less than 100. Dang. Average was 123 days in the 67 to 68, 1867 to 68 tea season. That's crazy. So the addition of the Suez Canal, or the building of that, took a normally 123-day trip. That's a third of your year right there. You know? A third of your year just for, what is that, the round trip? Typical passage time back to London. So that's one way, I suppose. One way trip, 123 days. The Suez Canal on a steamer made it in 58. That's a game changer. Holy smokes. Didn't realize, or holy steam rather. The freight rate for a steamer in 1871 was roughly double that paid to a sailing vessel. Okay. Some clipper owners were severely caught out by this. Several extreme clippers had been launched in 1869, including Cutty Sark, Norman Court, and Calais. Yeah, okay, steam was just much more efficient with the Suez Canal there. Which that does cut out a lot of distance. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go around the southern part of South America, you know? You can just cut through. Am I in the right place? Am I stupid? I'm thinking Panama Canal. Yeah, sorry. Cape of Good Hope is bottom of Africa, bottom, down under South Africa. Suez Canal is in Egypt. I was thinking the Panama Canal. I apologize. Um, yeah, surviving ships. Of the many clipper ships built during the mid 19th century, only two are known to survive. Only intact survivor is Cutty Sark. We already talked about that. In Greenwich, I apologize if I mispronounced that. That's just how I've heard it pronounced in the science field because GMT is important. The other known is the city of Adelaide, and unlike Cutty Sark, it was reduced to a hulk over the years. I don't know what it means by that. She eventually sank at her mooring in 91. A hulk is a ship that is afloat but incapable of going to sea. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, sank in her moorings in 1991, but was raised the following year and remained on dry land for years. Um, Adelaide is older than the two survivors. What is the older of the two survivors? It's getting late, and was transported to Australia for conservation. In pop culture, the Clipper legacy appears in collectible cards and in the name of a basketball team. We have sailing cards. Departures of Clipper ships, mostly from New York, Boston to San Francisco, were advertised by Clipper ship sailing cards. These cards, slightly larger than today's postcards, were produced by letterpress and wood engraving on coated card stock. Most Clipper cards were printed in the 1850s and 60s and represented the first pronounced use of color in American advertising art. That's cool. Cool little history tidbit. Perhaps 3,500 cards survived. That's not many. With their rarity and importance as artifacts of nautical, western, and printing history, Clipper cards are valued by both private collectors and institutions. Then basketball, we have the LA Clippers. Um, they take their name after the ship. Buffalo Braves. After Buffalo Braves moved to San Diego in '78, a contest was held to choose a new name. The winning name highlighted the city's connection with the Clippers that frequented San Diego Bay, and the team retained the name um, in its 1984 move to LA. Airliners, Pan Am named its aircraft beginning with the word Clipper and used Clipper as its call sign. This was intended to evoke an image of speed and glamour. And cool, that is the end of that. We've got people associated with Clipper ships, people who sailed on Clippers. Okay, cool. We got all these other people: Joseph Warren Holmes, Samuel Hartpooke, William Jardine, Donald McKay, John or Jock White Hat Willis. We've got a list of Clipper ships: Clipper Route, Packet Boat, Sailplane, Windjammer. I was planning on doing Windjammer at some other time. But if I have any people that are actively following this, which this is going to be a long episode at this point, but if anyone wants to hear a certain one, let me know. Let me know. We got a couple pictures to look at here yet. So Sovereign of the Seas, they set the record for the fastest sailing ship in 1854, which that was at 25 miles an hour, which was like what I forget how many knots. What was that? I'm not going to be able to find. Well, here, let me just search fastest. Ooh, goodbye.